early.
We sitting here talking about fucking Spitta just dropped. You know what I'm saying? In a big way.
Right.
But yeah, man. Welcome to another episode of Early, everybody.
Early.
Shit, fucking Christmas Eve, man.
Yeah, man.
Christmas Eve.
Tom done eluded us this year.
Santa Claus is coming to town. It's about that time. It's crazy.
Yeah. Fast year.
Yeah, man. This year kind of blew by. We're in the last week of the year. It's crazy, bro. Like it's kind of crazy. How would you say your year went, bro? Anything interesting?
Yeah. 2021 definitely, a good summation has been, this rabbit hole of NFTs and the metaverse.
Yeah.
That's definitely
It's basically what it's been.
That's definitely like the headliner. There's definitely been, a lot of great moments, a lot of great things that happen, experiences, meeting people, things of that nature, growing whatever it is that we got, trying to grow, first harvest of the year, shit like that, we could probably get more in depth, what I'm saying, when we get into the next week.
Yeah.
But, it was a good year.
Yeah.
It was definitely a good year of Blur, for sure.
Fucking
it went
Blur.
fast, but not at the point that I didn't feel like I utilized and, squeezed it for what it was worth. I definitely feel like utilizing my time good. Can definitely do it better moving forward, but I don't know. I don't live life with regrets, but definitely don't have any regrets this year. I'm happy with how it went. Just trying to compound upon it. I'm kind of viewing this little era we're in, this little COVID era. It's funny because as tumultuous of a year of 2020 was for a lot of people. I'm saying I was kind of saying the same shit. Like 2020 happened to be just a really good year for myself, and I was able to take that momentum, use it for this year.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do the same next year, man.
I hear that. Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, there's like a blurred line between 2020 and 2021. I think just because it's because of like what the pandemic has been and like how it's kind of changed our everyday life and everything like that.
Right.
It felt like we were getting back to normal. Like, not to say we were getting back to normalcy, but it felt like we were trying to find a way. Yeah, we were trying, like, and then now,
open,
yeah, exactly. Like now, we find ourselves getting right back to where we were.
And it's funny because people at a whole, it just seems like now people are just kind of fed up with it all. So that's why you see people move like, dog, I'm good.
There's kind of
very interesting.
Yeah, there's like a not so willing to just shut things down.
Did you
that's
see
happening.
The White House statement?
No. What happened?
To the unvaccinated, it's going to be a cold, severe winter for you all. Like,
what does that even mean? What is that?
Nah, hey, bro, it's like
shit.
the most subtle death. It's like, yo,
it's gonna be a cold, severe winter.
Get that shit.
Yeah,
get that shit.
Yeah,
I was geeking. I was like, yo, this look like some preface of the book. Like
yeah. Like, straight up.
Fuck?
It's getting ugly again. You know what I'm saying? Like it's getting ugly again. It's crazy, man, because I really don't watch the news, so like I just don't. I'm not hip. I wasn't privy to the fact that like shit was like really shutting down again. It wasn't until this week I started seeing like, people canceling events, keep people doing, man. Like I'm definitely tuned into the the White Do-Rag party I saw was canceled. I saw I'm like paying attention to all these sports leagues and everything like that. Like all these leagues are canceling and postponing games. You know what I'm saying? Like a bunch of college games got postponed yesterday.
Yeah, college really takes that real brunt. And when this shit happened, like
because like NBA, like you might see one game a day get postponed, like one. And there was also like a hurricane that happened last week, so like Detroit was postponing game. So tornadoes, right? I said hurricane. That
was crazy.
Tornado, yeah.
Yeah, I mean 36 tornadoes.
Crazy.
Like, yo,
yeah. So like so some of those teams that had some of those cities that have teams in them, like they were postponing games and stuff like that. So I thought that's what that was. But then like this week there was like the Wizards and the Nets got postponed. There was just a bunch of games that got postponed, and I was like, oh, like this is we're getting back to 2020 vibes. You know what I'm saying? Like things getting canceled and all that type of stuff. But yeah, I think that's kind of where it does seem like the year has been a blur because it's like that's the focus. Like the tunnel vision is on like getting past the pandemic, and like everything else is kind of just like, breezing by or like just like really just passing by as we're trying to like get to the end of this pandemic
And it was
period.
kind of like, towards the first half of this year, though, it was still on lockdown vibes. And when shit kind of got open, it was just like, just right in the mix. So
Yeah.
kind of like, I can see how it felt like a blur, especially when like the reality of this shit sets back in again. You're like, damn, it felt like we was just finished with this shit, you know what I'm saying? And now here we go, you know what I'm saying?
Big facts.
Another round, another year. It's very trippy, you know?
Yeah.
It's about to
But yeah,
it's
we'll see, you know what I'm saying, how the week ends, and then for sure we'll definitely recap the whole year next week. But we do have a super dope we're talking about sports and everything. We got a super dope interview with Kelsea Nicole Nelson coming up in a little bit. KNN. We're talking about COVID and sports. Well, first of all, we're talking about her journey as becoming a sports broadcaster. You probably know her from reporting on Redskins games. She has a few shows that she does throughout the week. So we got that interview coming up. But before we get into that, we were just talking about how Spitta just dropped Pilot Talk 4.
Yes,
we were literally just like jesting over the fact that like Pilot Talk is probably one of my favorite like series from him for sure. Maybe I don't know if I could say from an artist because the Carters are out there. You know what I'm saying? Like Carter 1, Carter 2, Carter 3. I mean, Carter 3 usually goes like takes the back seat for the Carters for me. But Carter 1, Carter 2, I mean, if we're talking albums, because Wayne also got mixtape series that go crazy.
Right.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, like Rick Ross. Rick Ross dropped last week.
Yeah,
did you ever hear that Richer Than I Ever Been?
Nah, I gotta
bro, stupid. That's another like Ross is my guy. That's no secret. You know what I'm saying? But that album is actually like stupid.
Ross always drops stupid.
Yeah,
to be
bro.
honest, it's kind of crazy because he's such a figure. Sometimes his music kind of goes to the wayside.
Bro.
Of like, it's interesting.
He's got so much stuff going on.
Like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? His swagger, his presence, and like he don't even carry himself as an artist per se.
Yeah,
like more so of like a more managerial with it, more like
he's like a mogul. He like carries himself as like a mogul. Like
he's like, don't forget like how I got to this point. You know what I'm saying? I've done this on a consistent basis, and every time you tap back in, it's kind of like, yo, this shit just like ages with time. Shit kind of sounds harder. It's like sounded better. It's like, you know, like with a lot of, like Aaron Rodgers. You know, people have been saying, oh, I think this is his best year. Ever, just clicking on everything. And I think rap is that sport too. It's like, as long as you always conscious of where you're at in life, and like you're growing as an individual, not trying to like harken back, just you spitting the raps as it is, like how your life is now. I think that shit can be the same. That shit actually gets better with time too. Like, I know a lot of people have probably mixed feelings towards it, but I love 444. And I thought about that. Like, I was like, this nigga's 47 years old. Like, I'm like,
who, Jay-Z?
Yeah, like but I'm like, yo, this shit hard. And I'm like, this is your shit. Like, I don't hear you trying to catch back a flow all the time. It's like, nah, bro.
Because we tend to put rap in that kind of category where like there's an age that caps it off, like it's sports or something, and it's not. There's definitely, because like, there's that stigma. Of course, it's for like people who are like, if you're Jay-Z, no one's gonna be like, Jay-Z, you're too old to rap. But like, if you're not Jay-Z and you're like in your mid 30s, upper 30s, 40s, even trying to rap, you kind of get this kind of like look or this stigma of like you're doing something immature. You know what I'm saying? Like,
because like at the root of it, when you had like ciphers and freestyles, there's a real like a competitive nature to it. So like with that competitive nature came that look, you're washed up. Type of thing. But it's like, when you're just thinking about it from an artist perspective and just growing,
your art probably gets better the older you get.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's how art works.
In kind of any medium, though, right? Like any medium,
like anything that
as long as you're true to that.
Yeah, 100%. Like, as you get older, you get more insight into what's good and what's your taste, kind of like. And that's the thing about Rick Ross. Like, that's why I feel like he's kind of become one of my favorite artists over time, is because like as I get older and my taste kind of like elevates, his music does as well. Like, yeah, it resonates even more.
Like
or like I'm just like, oh, I'm feeling this on a whole new level now. You know what I'm saying?
100%. It's kind of like with me, like Jay-Z and Reasonable Doubt, and like, you know, I grew up listening to everybody's discographies, and I was like, you know, huge Nas fan. He just actually dropped the album too at 12 today. Yeah, so he also
Nas dropped another one.
Hearing a lot of great things about it.
Nas just dropped another album.
Yeah, with Hit Boy.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
And I'm hearing that it's very crazy. So I'm gonna have to tap into that. But yeah, it's kind of like that same sentiment when I grew up, but then I just started listening to Jay-Z shit again. I was like, I just started understanding the content of what he was saying more. And
that's the thing,
this is hard.
This
is crazy, actually.
Yeah, it went over my crazy, head.
Yeah, I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just definitely tough.
That's a big fact. And speaking of Jay-Z, I kind of want to touch on the whole, like, a lot of people have been throwing rumblings out there of like, because he was in a I guess in a Twitter Spaces earlier this week talking about like nobody could see me in a versus. It doesn't even make sense type shit. Which, don't get me wrong, like, to a degree he's right. To a degree. And also, I don't know if he's right. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, like, people started bringing up like who would, you know what I'm saying? I had heard before like Rick Ross versus Jay-Z. I think really the real competition that people have been talking about is Lil Wayne versus Jay-Z. First of all, do you think there's anybody that could, like, who would you want to see Jay-Z go in a versus with?
To
like,
be honest, bro, it's like, yeah, truly, it's like, I don't care to see
nobody.
Anybody versus Jay-Z. I wouldn't. I'd be entertained, sure.
Yeah,
you know
what
I'm saying? But it's like, I don't think anybody can see him. Truly, like, you know what I'm saying? Even like, you know, people, they'll say Wayne and stuff like that, but it's like, you know, the thing about the verses, it's kind of crazy. Like what Jadakiss kind of like showed. This shit is there's many facets.
There's many facets. It's not just the songs that you play. It's the songs that you play.
Yeah, man.
But there's more to it.
And at first it was the songs in the order, but then as you grow
it's
with
elevated.
it, people started like, yo, what's that charisma like? How's, you know, how can you capture the stage? And like,
so
also when
in that case,
and when it came to the Dipset thing too, it was like what Jadakiss kind of called, because I don't even think they were the first ones, but I was like, damn, like when he
Jadakiss went against Fab before.
Jadakiss, he won that.
Yeah,
like,
no, yeah, 100%.
It was crazy. Like, dog, it was really
Jadakiss
crazy.
has probably been in like 2 or 3 verses.
Really crazy.
Yeah.
They had, you remember the meme? He had him on Time Magazine.
Yeah. His nigga was doing that.
We outside. Yo, but like, now when he was like, damn, y'all niggas don't remember y'all lyrics.
Yo,
damn, I was like, I was like, come on, y'all. Hey, Wayne don't remember his best bars.
That's funny. No, that's true.
Bars.
He be having to print out. He be having to print out his lyrics and then rehearse them before performances. But that, I mean, that being true, Wayne was also kind of like, you know, he's like a rock star in the whole performance. Like there, I don't know if there's anybody that's ever gone to a Wayne performance and been like, I didn't like that. Like, Wayne gives amazing performances. Like, not even just great. Like, like if we're talking the performance of it, we can't just give that to Jay-Z, because I'm like, Wayne could probably be like, I've never looked at a Jay-Z performance and be like, this is the best performance I've ever seen.
Yeah,
like he's rapping. He's up there rapping. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I don't think Jay-Z's done anything. And I'm just talking about what I've seen, like, from clips of performances. Like, not doing nothing crazy unless he brings out somebody crazy.
Yeah,
like,
but it's like, you know, it's not like a 40,000 capacity got to fill up this arena. You know, that versus be a little bit more intimate. More. I'm like, you know, that shit hit a little bit more harder. And I think with
in a more intimate setting, you're saying?
Yeah, and I think with Wayne too, it's like Wayne, you know, to your point, he was even more pop star, and his shit like really took all demographic. Like, everybody was rocking with this shit. I'll say that, at least with Hov, it wasn't far reaching in that way. Like, in terms of like the people that was listening, I feel like Wayne definitely had some reach, and that was definitely also because of the time it was in. But I feel like in that setting, on that stage, Hov 20,
I can't just give it to Hov, bro. Like, know, I think
easily. And you know, it's so funny too. Easily.
I don't know if it's easy. I don't know if I agree with that.
It was kind of crazy because this is how I feel like I'd feel if they went together. It's kind of like Bone Thugs and 3-6. It was so crazy because I'm like, I fuck with Bone Thugs hard. I fuck with 3-6.
Yeah.
And I fuck with, but I ain't gonna lie, I definitely grew up on Bone Thugs more.
Oh,
than
word!
3
I grew up
6.
on 3-6 more.
But before I even heard that, I'm like, 3-6 probably got this, because when that shit dropped, it's different. And then when that shit played out, I was like, hey, bro, Bone, they played the joints, bro. But every time their song was over and 3-6 played that shit, I was like, it's over. No, every time the 3-6 beat dropped, I was like, damn, they beat you.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm saying. Like,
I was like, bro, it
3-6,
didn't even matter what song y'all played.
To me, I don't
they
even.
Just beat it.
To me, again,
so
I might sound like super ignorant to Bone Thugs right now, but like, I don't even know what Bone Thugs has that can compete with like 3-6. I didn't watch that versus. But like, I grew up on 3-6, and they have a lot, bro. Like, I don't know, and they kind of like, honestly, they kind of like defined my like high school like careers.
Yeah,
like,
but that's like to me, like when they came into my mind's eye, because I wasn't really growing up in the days of like when they was really on
like
the
Still Fly. Like, you remember that
that's
joint?
what I'm saying. So that was more so like the era thing, because the funny thing is 3-6 was putting in that work same time that Bone Thugs came out. Like Eazy-E brought Bone Thugs onto the surface. So like I'm thinking more so of the year thing too. So like in that era, like when Bone Thugs was out, I was like, this shit was fucking crazy. And the South wasn't necessarily getting too much of a spotlight. Like, you remember, we can harken back to like the Source Awards. You remember like Andre 3000, like when they getting their award and shit's like, you know, the South got something to say. That's all I got. Because it was East and West. You ain't really even give a fuck. And 3-6 was going hard during that time, but I wasn't tuned in all the way. They came more to the surface for me, like when the sipping on that scissor and then the project. That's when I'm like, kill this 3-6. And like, I'm not gonna lie, like when they just introduced also the beat and that flow, like I was like, bro, this is like some cheat code shit. Like, this is crazy. Like Bone Thug shit was more so like Thug Love, Thuggish Ruggish Bone. It's 1999. They play Crossroads. They wait to the end to play Crossroads, or like Buddha Love. Like, it's a lot of shit, but I was like, it's just the energy in terms of who y'all facing. It's like, it's
the matchup. It's a bad matchup for y'all.
G-Unit with 3-6. That's hard. You can't tell me which. You gotta really be like, yo, choose your side and stay on it. And that's a real like, put your money up. Bone Thugs, I was like, damn, bro, you could have been a way better. Put him with another matchup type shit, because I was like, it looked like this a 5 nigga harmony, and then this is 3-6 turned up on your shit.
Up, 100%. Like, but then G-Unit, I don't know if they turn up. You know what I'm saying?
That
G-Unit,
shit,
they got
when that
hits,
shit
though.
go, that shit, we don't got it. You hear that beat drop, nigga? This shit hard. Like, this shit hard as gangster shit. 3-6, I was like, so I feel like it's a better. Y'all coming with the same like equal weapons to the fight. Like, all right, bet fight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The verse just on they smoking shit. You know what I'm saying? Both of us like, yeah, if you like the J, hey, some vibe right now.
Yeah,
like,
I think the matchups with the verses are super important. Like, who you got matched, just for the 100%. Entertainment experience. You know what I'm saying? 100%. Like, it's super important about like who you would match up. I remember me and my homies that do the fantasy, we were talking about like a Rick Ross versus 50 Cent versus.
Yeah, the 2 Chainz drums. Like,
2 Chainz. Who would you see him going up with?
No, it was Rick Ross and 2 Chainz.
Oh, they did go?
Yeah, it was mad. Oh, word. It was just mad, like drunk, I don't know if on their rich shit. Just chilling. It wasn't like the crowd shit. It was before that.
This was before that time when it was just like 2 people.
The nice little spot, though, you know.
But you know what's funny is that 2 Chainz and Rick Ross kind of, they do give off that like rap rich vibe, like that rich, but like different, like rich, different than like, you know, just like a regular rapper being rich. They're more like exquisite. They're more like,
like, you're gonna just enjoy the catalog. Maybe gonna be the, you know, the most like charismatic at this stage, especially when the crowd, that's a different situation. I do that to them too. It's like, yo, it's just us. You know what I'm saying, bro? I always see you. What the fuck?
100%. And that's how the early verses were. The early verses was like niggas in there literally on Zoom, like in their own studios, just like playing their songs.
Lil Jon and T-Pain shit was turned. That shit was, even though they was at the crib, Lil Jon was at the bar. He was at his bar. And his crib.
And weren't they like making music at the time that they were? I don't remember watching that joint, but I think I heard that they were like making shit in real time during the shit. Or am I tripping?
I don't know if it was more so like T-Pain he was playing towards the end. He was playing some new shit.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying, that nobody heard type shit. But it was tough because he was like literally in the stew with it, and then Lil Jon had his set up from the fucking bar in his crib. I was like, yo, this is
very crazy, very crazy. Man, let's get into this commercial break. We're gonna come back with our interview with Kelsea. And man.
Make sure my vocals right. Make sure the beat right. Welcome to the 5th show.
Time to cuff.
Powered by ItsNation TV.
My God! Oh, no!
ItsNation TV.
That's why I try to get in line. Play, execute, have fun, dub.
I can do a lot more than what I think I can.
Back to the interview.
You ready?
We have Kelsea, Nicole, Nelson in the house. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Early. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk with you fellas, as you all
for sure. Yes. I feel like there's so much happening right now. We're right in the thick of the playoff hunt in the NFL. We're approaching All-Star time in NBA, so we're right around the middle of the NBA. So many developments happening with like COVID and how these teams are shaping up. So I think it's going to be a dope conversation. I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts on everything that's going on. But before we get into all of that, I kind of want to start with context. Let's set some context. You know what I'm saying? Let's set the scene a little bit. Exactly. So go ahead and run down in your own words like who you are.
Of course. Well, again, thank you so much for having me. I am Kelsea Nicole Nelson. I am a freelance sports journalist, so I do a little bit of everything, TV, radio, and I'm loving it because I'm doing it all in my hometown of the DMV. And to me, there's no greater place than the DMV area. Born and bred here, love it here.
For sure.
University of Maryland graduate, Georgetown University graduate. And today I would say I'm just living out my dreams. I am the host of my own sports talk podcast, Listen In with KNN on Fox Sports Radio. I'm also a co-host and analyst on Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus on Masson, so everyone usually knows me from those two shows in the area. Last season, I wrapped up as a digital host, hosting 3 shows for our Washington football team, which was a fabulous experience. And I do a bunch of radio hits, TV hits. Everyone just knows me from basically being your DMV sports authority. I guess that's a good way to look at me because I cover all the teams here, sidelines, and just bring you all the best. I'm also teaching intro to radio and podcasting, which has been a phenomenal experience. And I'm also the founder of a nonprofit group called Books Breaking Borders, Books to End Educational Bankruptcy. So basically, I'm a busy woman. That's the best.
You are busy as hell. I'm kind of like winded just taking all of that in. You're doing so much.
Yeah, I mean, there's many.
I tried to do it in one breath too, fellas.
You did one job well done. So you said a lot of things right there, but one thing that I just really interested in me because I definitely love being in this education space and getting people, I guess, acquainted or just bestowing some knowledge that they can make applicable. What are the ages of the students that you teach?
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's Doral College, and so they are actually kids that are late high school, and of course, I'm actually in an early college program. So these are kids that are getting a college credit in high school, which, as you all know, is so important. So when you go to college, you can hopefully spend less money and be in less debt because many of us, including myself, are scared about February and those student loan payments coming back. It's a phenomenal experience. They're getting an experience I wish I had in high school. They're producing their own podcast show on Sirius XM Radio, y'all. This isn't just the school radio station. Sirius Radio, they have their own station. I think it's phenomenal to be a part of. They even actually had a chance to go down to the Super Bowl in Miami and actually have a booth and broadcast, getting to interview guys like LT, Lawrence Taylor. So this is how great
that's crazy.
It's exciting to be a part of it from the DC landscape. And it's something, that I never fully envisioned myself doing. Growing up, I knew I wanted to do sports broadcasting, but the teaching aspect of it, it's been great. I've been a capstone advisor at Georgetown and doing this with the students. You learn so much about yourself and honestly about the world of journalism through them. One, they keep me young. I know about the latest trends on TikTok.
For sure. You always got to keep some kids around for that.
Right.
There you go. Right. Because look, I have a TikTok and I still have yet to make a video, fellas. So it's eventually going to come, but it has to be the right one. So I'm still learning the tips and tricks of the trade, but it's great. And like you said, the education piece is so important. important, because at the end of the day, when I am long gone from this world, yes, my broadcast videos might still be up here, but I'm very big into how you make people feel and the legacy and impact that you leave upon others. That's how I want to be remembered. So giving back to this next generation, it means so much to me. I'm just honored that they trusted me and believe in me to give back to them and hopefully learn from me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And something that you said that really stuck out to me is, and something that I resonate with is and you can probably resonate with this too, Brooke, like when you're teaching something, you kind of learn even more, because it takes another kind of skill to articulate what it is you're doing and why you're doing it and really teaching. So I really resonate with that. And it kind of leads me to another question, which is, in the world of podcasting, we're podcasters, you're a podcaster and, live show producer. In that world, in that realm, what are some of the key things to focus on? Like what are you teaching your students are like the most important things? You know what I mean? They say that the top 90% of things are not important. There's like 10% of things that have to be done that give you the most results. What would you say is that? The 80-20 rule. What would you say is the 80-20 rule for podcasting?
I'm glad you asked that, because now it seems like everybody has a podcast, but you want to have the right podcast. And so a lot of the stuff we focus on is the technical aspect. Audio needs to be strong. There's nothing worse than having bad audio on a podcast. And if you're doing what we're doing, also the video component needs to be strong. And I think once you get that component underway, then you can start kind of branding your podcast, getting it out into the world, getting sponsors for it, getting special guests on. So we kind of start at the basics of learning that. And I think the great thing that the students are learning are they're learning how to produce, they're learning how to host, they're kind of learning all facets of the industry. And I think that's so important, because nowadays we're seeing less jobs in media, and you really do need to be a jack of all trades. So knowing how to do everything. If somebody calls out sick, unfortunately, knock on wood, if somebody contracts COVID, the show has to continue and somebody's going to have to be able to step up. And so I think it has to be fast paced and learning, but also feeling confident in your role that you're doing. And this is what these students are doing so early on. And this is why I'm excited, y'all. The future of journalism and media is in really good hands.
Is it?
I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, hey, you're leading the way. You're teaching the next generation. That's something that's super commendable. I also want to know, so your path to having all of these platforms, all of these shows, how did you get there? Like, I mean, somebody would get one show and be content, you know what I'm saying? And then even just getting one show is difficult. So like, what was your path from graduating to now being kind of the voice for DC sports?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I tell people all the time, I'm still humbled in the position I'm in. I always say I'm just a young girl from Germantown, Maryland, Moco bred, Moco born. And I think,
shout out to Moco.
Shout out to Montgomery County. Matter of fact,
straight up.
As well for winning that championship. I tried to tell people Moco was better than PG. But all that to say, I think, growing up early, I always had kind of this dog mentality. Early on, my parents weren't rich or wealthy. And that's one of the misconceptions I think that people actually have about Montgomery County. They think that everybody comes from money and that everybody just had this life handed to them. And that wasn't my case. And so my parents are from Jackson, Mississippi. I learned hard work very early on. And I learned about just what it took to, one, succeed in the classroom, but two, to learn my passions early. So I was yearbook editor-in-chief of my high school yearbook, right, for 2 years, and the first Black female at that, which was super exciting, especially at what was then brand new Clarksburg High School. But I actually go back to middle school when I kind of getting my feet wet. I was doing oratory contests. I was writing for my middle school newspaper. Then went on to high school. I took AP Lit and AP language classes, because I just knew what I wanted to do, but also I played sports. And so I think for me, my journey has really been just one, not being afraid of new opportunities. I tell people that all the time. You have to really go after what you want, but also put yourself in challenging situations. So like becoming editor-in-chief for me at first, it was scary because I'm like, the yearbook is a big thing. At least it was back then, right? You have to make sure all the pages are right, that you pick the right pictures, that you're trying to get a well representation of the school. You don't want to keep putting the same person in. And I think it just shows that people trust you, and to have that ability for 2 years was big for me. And even covering a high school sports in high school for my newspaper, I thought it was big because that means my name was printed on paper, y'all. And that was great.
Straight up.
Right.
And that's when I kind of started to brand my name and myself. And then, of course, I go on to college and become a journalism major after starting as a psychology major. And I tell people that I started as psychology because people had talked me out of journalism when I was going to University of Maryland because they were like, journalists don't make any money. And I didn't come for money. So I was like, I want to make money. So like, I was like,
exactly.
Right. And then they said psychology was the answer.
I thought psychology was the answer. Right? I'm going to make money. I'm going to be like these people.
That's interesting because I'm like, how does psychology? I mean, unless you become a psychologist,
right. That's what I wanted to do. I'm like, right. A psychologist, because I thought I was really good at talking with people, and I've kind of always been that friend that people like, share their emotions. And I make people feel
and all that.
Better.
Right.
And lo and behold, I was in my psychology classes, y'all, and I was just unhappy. Like I could get through the classes and I could do the work, but I didn't have that fire and passion behind it. So lo and behold, I go to Maryland. I go to my advisor and say, look, something's got to change. I got to get into the journalism program. It was a limited enrollment program, so I had to do all these prerequisites. But I get into the journalism program, and I kind of say the rest is history. Everything became natural to me. I was taking sports broadcasting classes. I had people like Kevin Blackstone as a professor, one of my mentors, Mark Gray. And I was staying after classes, asking, like, how can I get better, shadowing them on job assignments. And so at Maryland, I actually started working in community access television for Prince George's County Community Cable. And I tell people that all the time. I come from humble beginnings, covering high school sports first. And then that's where I kind of got my feet wet, meeting people in the area. And really, people don't realize that I always say the DMV breeds ballers. When you're covering high school sports in this area, you're covering sometimes the next professional athlete, the next college athlete. And that's when people remember you. And even going back to Montgomery County, I cheered for the Montgomery Village Chiefs. The Montgomery Village Chiefs.
I played for the Montgomery Village Chiefs.
It's a lot of ball players, right? So you
yeah.
all these different connections and all these different connection points that I have. Then I go on to cover college sports, of course, covering college sports at Maryland. I'm interning in the athletic department. Y'all, I had about 14 internships in college. And I put that out there to say, I really wanted to see what I could do. And I really wanted to network and get my name out there. And that's exactly what I did in college. And one of the best internships I did was interning with Nascar. Again, notice where I said I grew up in the DMV. I didn't know much about NASCAR growing up here. We didn't really talk about it. My family wasn't a part of it. And, NASCAR for a long time had a negative connotation, I think, with many African Americans. But I wanted something different, and I knew it was something that would be different and stand out on my resume. And even still to this day, people ask me about what it was like working for NASCAR, especially as a Black woman and being a Black woman that was able to be on Sirius XM NASCAR radio. Wonderful, tremendous experience. That's why I go back to putting yourself in situations where you challenge yourself. And that's what that was for me. I had to move to Charlotte. They gave me like 4 days notice. I was taking final exams at Maryland. Like, wait, you got the internship? Can you come and move down to Charlotte? I'm like, yes. And of course I call my parents. I'm like, wait. You didn't tell us about this. Like, what do you mean? Where are you going to live? And I'm like, I'll figure that out later. They can put us in a
They'll
hotel.
figure it out for me. Straight up.
It was crazy. I was sleeping on a couch the first week when I was in Charlotte until I found college housing across from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. But all that to say, this is what life is about. And so I share my story to say I've always put myself in situations where I've had opportunities to network, but also work hard. You should never leave a job or an internship without 2 or 3 people that are willing to speak on your behalf and speak well on your behalf. I mean, it's a lot of hard work. I was usually at the internships very late. I remember working at Comcast Sportsnet Washington, which is now NBC Sports Washington. We were logging games, and I did it in the summertime when we had to log baseball games. And if you guys don't know what logging games is, this is when you have to do time codes for everything that happens in a game. Baseball is very deep.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So I'm sitting there.
About that, Mac knows.
Yeah, I used to do that for high school basketball
You
games
understand
for a while.
You
Yeah.
understand it.
Nah,
But
for
while I
sure.
was doing that, I was asking for opportunities. And so I actually got to complete my first reel while I was at NBC Sports Washington, which of course was then Comcast Sportsnet. And so then I had a professional reel that I was able to use as my tape to ship out to different companies. And I think for me, it's just been kind of growing and building my brand, getting better, repetition on camera. But also I've had the ability to cover top sports at the top level. One of the best interviews I did in college, I had a chance to interview John Wall at what was then the Nation's Classic. And it was Howard and Hampton on each other. And John's like, look, I'm from Kentucky. This HBCU experience is incredible. I love it.
Yeah.
And that interview went crazy. And people were like, it was great to see somebody ask John Wall a different question, get him from another side and really see what his experience has been in DC and kind of get like the DC vibe and the DC culture. And as you all know, we still love John Wall in DC. I think he's still. And that's kind of what it has been. And also really honestly footing the bill. My first Super Bowl I covered, I footed the own bill for that. I was able to cover with the radio station, but I had to pay my way down there. So I had to save up and get myself down there. So I say that to say, like, a lot of my journey has just been hard work, grit, networking, but again, always being ready and prepared for the opportunity. That's the biggest
That's a fact.
And I feel like you touched on it several points right there when you was talking. Getting accustomed to actually going for those opportunities, or sometimes these challenges that scare you, because once you actually get yourself like immersed within the process, it starts becoming like a habit. You're like, no, I'm very well capable for this opportunity since I prepared for it. And I like that networking aspect. It's like sometimes you can never necessarily foresee where it is in life that like your work will take you, but you do have to know that you have to cultivate these relationships. You see a lot of these people again on the way up, like as you keep on traversing through your space. So I'm really happy that you definitely like emphasize that. That's definitely something you could pull away, like network and make sure you are leaving spaces and adding value, and like people are speaking highly of you because of like their time had with you or worked with you. They're like, yo, that person, not only does they carry their own weight, but they're adding so much more input or value into the situation. So definitely want to emphasize that.
That's a fact. And what really stuck out about your kind of journey up to this point is there's real passion for what you do. Like I can just tell by how you're talking about it, and your story sounds so similar to mine when I first kind of started doing production stuff. I remember I had a opportunity to go shoot a behind the scenes interview with the Breakfast Club. And I had to foot the bill to go to New York. I had to stand in like the middle of a snowstorm to wait for the Greyhound. Like the Greyhound came like so late. And literally I went with a homie and he was like, yeah, I'm leaving. Like the bus is not coming. He left and I just waited for the bus for like another hour in the middle of the snow. But I didn't even think anything of it. And when you're doing these things, it's like, the passion is just really kind of like driving that, you know what I mean? And a lot of your stories have that kind of like that passion, that grit for just living out what you're trying to do. You know what I mean?
And that adversity, I'd say, makes you stronger. I mean, so many times in life, we're in situations like you and standing in that snowstorm. That's something that you always remember. But I know that opportunity paid off to you, and this is what brought us together. And that's what people have to realize. I think, social media makes it seem like everything's glitzy and glamour in this line of work. And that's just not true. We put up, of course, the wins. And, it's something I'm even working on is trying to be more vulnerable and really showing what you go through. This industry has its ups and downs, even now to this day, to your point, going through trials and tribulations. But that passion has to be there. If you can't tell, I'm very high energy and high spirit, but it's because I'm doing what I love and I'm walking in my purpose with a passion. That's something I preach all the time to my mentees. You have to walk in your purpose with a passion for it. And I think that's when you will truly find success. And that's why now I've been blessed to have opportunities now come my way. And it goes back to branding even on. I learned early that Kelsea Nelson was a common name. I wanted to be the first one, y'all. When people put in a Google search, I wanted to be the first one.
And you come up. You know what I'm saying? Not Kelsea Nelson from Ohio or, you know what I'm saying?
No other Kelseys. And so that's kind of when I was like, you know what? Let me go by my full name, Kelsea Nicole Nelson. And throughout life, people have been calling me K&N because of that. And all of a sudden, K&N stuck, and it kind of became a brand.
It sounds like a news network.
Like a news network, and that's what my family said growing up. Because everyone in my family is like, Kelsea, you're just gonna be like just like CNN, and like you're K&N, like CNN, and then that's what I'm walking in. And now I use my branding K&N for my podcast. I have merchandise and apparel. But this is also why you have to know the lay of the land and the landscape. And that's exactly what I did. I knew I had a unique niche. And for me, I thought DMV sports, I know unlike any other from the area, can talk to them. Grew up going to the games here, talking to players. And then obviously I know the DMV is home, but also from a Black woman's perspective is really what I wanted to push in the DMV area. So branding myself, I think, was also the biggest thing. And I made sure that everywhere I go and everywhere I worked, I left a piece of me. And Brooke said it. You want to always add value to wherever you're going, because that's what companies want. There's a million people that want to work for a lot of these big networks. But what value do you bring? What can you do for me? And that's really the world we are in. What can you do for me? And what have you done for me lately? So it's always being innovative and kind of thinking ahead and thinking forward to your next step.
You have had the opportunity to see some of these ballers from young who are either, it's kind of a twofold question. You can pick which one you want to answer. Either an athlete that you saw from young that fulfilled the potential that you saw them having, like i.e. a Stephon Diggs or something like that, or just your favorite person to have done an interview with?
Oh my gosh, these are great questions, and I love getting these questions. I will give you kind of a 3-part answer. So the best athlete I saw growing up, it's funny you say Stephon Diggs, because it probably really would be Stephon Diggs, because of course, saw him playing in MoCo, went to University of Maryland, and he was at the University of Maryland the same time I was at the University of Maryland.
Oh yeah, it's lit.
that I got to see like really grow and develop. And I think he was very underrated at the University of Maryland. Lo and behold, look what he's done. Also, shout out to DJ Moore for also representing for the University.
DJ Moore, yeah, he's killing.
I had to shout him out as well. But I think on the other end of the spectrum, I thought Dwayne Haskins was a guy, saw playing here, going to Bullis, and had a lot of potential. I think, unfortunately, so far he's took the other end of that road. But I'm not giving up on him yet. I hope he does have
yeah.
Even if it's not with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but somebody that was very talented that also has Mocha roots. I think the best interview I had, honestly, it's hard to pick because so many people bring different assets and values. But I always say the one that really helped me differentiate myself was my interview with LeVar Ball. I mean, I think we talked for over an hour.
Oh, wow.
And, I mean, we just kept it real. It was a real conversation. Right. And he respected that I was coming to him as a Black father and not just trying to get him angry for a soundbite. And I think people really understand when you have a real connection. I think that's why one of my best skills that I pride myself on is interviewing people, because I really try to get to know who they are, going beyond the layers and trying to ask them something that probably nobody else has asked them. And so I think LeVar Ball was one that took off for me, and kind of, I always say, like, so many different opportunities and my name going into national media. That's kind of where it started, from that interview with him. And I'm forever thankful for him giving me the time. And it was funny because I'm like, we're going over hours. I'm like, all right, LeVar, I'm so sorry, but we have to wrap. And as soon as I hang up, my sports director calls me and said, Kelsey, what are you doing? What did you just do? I was like, but we're over an hour. He's like, you should have kept going. He wanted to keep talking. So even now I kick myself because I'm like, and that goes back to learning and kind of just knowing. But that one was just so much fun. If anybody has not heard that yet, please go check it out. It's still to this day, I think it adds so much relevance to what he's saying. And really everything that he said is now happening, y'all, in the NBA.
It's really crazy. You can go back to any LeVar interview and it's like, yeah, he knew what he was doing. He knew what he saw. That he's a savant in that way. And it's crazy because like he just looks out there like a crazy guy.
And it's crazy because I feel like he kind of captured like the zeitgeist of the age, because we've seen this transition of players being able to own their own likeness.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
And like LeVar was kind of already like hyper aware of how it should have been, right? And he kind of just pressed up on that issue right at the moment, right before it transitioned. So everybody's like, yo, you're wild. That's crazy. Yeah. It seemed like it was too much branding, but you see it, like, as plans unfold, you see exactly what the vision was. And now we're literally waiting on like Jello to get picked up, like get any 10-day contract any day now, because you see Lonzo, like, look at the Bulls, man. Like they're in there.
Lonzo and LaMelo. LaMelo won the Rookie of the Year. No, yeah, he's stamped. It's time for him.
Serious, but like Lonzo, like, it's really good to see like this. The Bulls is like DeRozan looking like MJ 2.0.
I would say Lonzo has definitely elevated since he's been with the Bulls. Like with the Lakers, he was looking okay. He was looking decent. He was showing flashes. I like Lonzo Ball right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's good.
Environment. He's in the right environment. Like
that's a fact.
The Lakers, and you think about the Pelicans, being in the right environment, in the right system, it speaks a lot. And not just in basketball, 100%. But in so many sports. We see some athletes like, why do
in life?
You're right. In any situationships or relationships you're in, it's so true. You have to be in the right environment with the right people and cast around you, because that's when you'll find true success. And what you all said, LeVar, he spoke into existence what he already knew was going to happen. And lo and behold, look at name, image, and likeness now, especially in college sports, now that college athletes finally have the opportunity to make money off of their own brands. It's an exciting time in sports.
Yeah, I think whether he meant to or not, he really exposed how kind of useless the NCAA is, outside of the fact that we'll give you a free education. It's like, what else do you have to offer? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, LeVar kind of showed like, yo, I can send my guys anywhere and they'll get drafted. Like, they're great basketball players, and I know how to like just, you know what I mean? He kind of showed that the NCAA is not doing anything except just giving these guys a free education.
And the thing is, like, you would see on these, social medias of a lot of these players that are in high school, and not even like in their,
they're famous.
They're famous. Right. They're social media famous.
Yeah.
If you look at how they turn out their high school arenas, it's like, yo, they are a real brand. Exactly. And it looks like wherever they go, even if it happens to be overseas, like the fans they'll
follow. There, For sure. Yeah. For sure.
I mean, I had Amari Bailey on my podcast. Just wanted to allude to that. And what Amari's doing at Sierra Canyon. Perfect example. Yeah. Look at the crowd. I mean, they got Drake, y'all, in the crowds at that height.
Makes no sense.
Makes no sense. And I think back to when we were in school, just think if we had social media like now, like they do now. I mean, brands that you can make. High school athletes now have, like, some of them have millions, hundreds of thousands of followers. Like, it's crazy. So now you don't even have to wait, to get attention from these colleges and universities. You can put your mixtape out there. It goes viral on social media. And
literally.
everyone's showing up at your door.
Yeah, yeah. It's like early Napster times with music, but with sports. That we were alluding to NBA talk. I think it's a good time to get into it. First of all, I feel like this is such a crazy NBA season thus far. Of course, because of COVID and what it's doing to lineups and everything like that. What have you kind of seen in this first half of the NBA season?
Yeah, I'm glad you alluded to it because COVID-19 is unfortunately, it's kind of leveling the playing field, but in a bad way for sports. Because right now, we're looking at the commissioner, Adam Silver, in the NBA. We're looking at Roger Goodell in the NFL and just asking questions like, well, what will this do? And to your all's point, this is when it really matters. We're kind of getting into the thick of things. I'd probably say even more so in the NFL and how COVID is depleting them when we're trying to talk about playoffs and playoff seeding and what that will mean. But I think in the NBA, it's been so unfortunate. And also in college basketball, because if we're talking about the DMV area, Georgetown just had to forfeit a basketball game because of the COVID-19 pandemic and what it's done to their team. But, you look at the Wizards and how they had to, of course, postpone the game against the Nets. And the Nets, geez, I thought some of us were going to have to play.
The Nets are done. They got like 4 players left. Like,
there. And then Kyrie and that whole situation. And then
what do you think about that too? Like, what do you think about them bringing back Kyrie?
Yeah. So this was my stance, Kelsea, because me and Mac, we were just talking about it before we came on air with you. I was thinking it's more so like I definitely understand how people would be critical of the Nets franchise for making the decisions that they've made. Because one thing I said is like, look, as an individual, however you decide to go about COVID, that's your individual right. So I wasn't necessarily knocking Kyrie, but I also understood that, look, these are the stipulations in place. You don't want to go with the protocols, then don't expect concessions to be made. But a month or 2 months later, everything upticks a little bit. COVID's getting a little serious. Still, he's still as at this point unvaccinated, but now the Nets are making concessions due to the fact that everything
we need you.
And it's like I'm thinking you still need to, like, at this moment, it's not like fans are not able to come to the stands. They are. So it's like, oh, we still need to give our product. We still need something for the people to come to see. But I'm like, it kind of like you put yourself in a hypocritical situation because at first you're like, oh, we're not going to compromise it. We're not going to do the half. But now, we have no team. So you know what? Come on. And
like, Kyrie, are you busy?
How do you feel about that and just overall how they're going about protocols?
I think you hit the nail on the head. And I think what we're seeing teams do and what the Nets did is what will people do when they get desperate? I think, many times when you watch things on TV, people always say, well, if I was in that situation, I would have done this. You don't know what you would do until you're in a desperate situation.
Exactly.
You watch these crime shows and you're like, oh, if somebody had a gun pointed at me, I'm going to.
How did you not see that coming?
It's like, no, you don't know what you're going to do until you're in those situations. And so the Nets found themselves in a bad situations. And what did they do? They went on reversal mode and said, you know what? Okay, we'll make an exception this time around. Like you said, it sends mixed messaging and signals because I thought at first their stance was clear. Like, Kyrie, all right, you don't want to get with the team and do what the other players have done and need to do to continue to play this NBA season, then you can't be part of what we have. Then all of a sudden, you're back rubbing him and say, okay, you can come back, for now because we need your help a little bit. And I didn't like that, honestly, because again, I think, and even in the NFL, I thought the same way they handled the Aaron Rodgers situation with him being immunized versus vaccinated. Like, these leagues, unfortunately, they try to act like they're having these hard this year because it was full COVID seasons in both of the leagues. And then all of a sudden this year, you're making these expectations for certain star players. And it's just hard to get with the program. And for me, I didn't like the move. Now, again, I know the Nets were desperate, but you need to stand clear and stick to what you're saying. Because if I'm in that locker room, I'm like, all right, well, this is confusing. And then maybe if I didn't want to get vaccinated, I'm asking questions.
I didn't have to. Exactly.
Exactly. You just make more problems than you needed to. So I thought that was unfortunate. As much as I love to see Kyrie play, look, it is what it is. It is what it is. Everybody else had to follow it. All of us have to follow certain rules now because we're trying to make each other safer. I think that's what people are forgetting during this pandemic. You don't just go to get the booster shot just for yourself. You're doing it for everybody around you. Like, this is the one time that I would love for us all to be on the same team and realize to get out of this pandemic, it's going to take all of us together. It can't just be 50% of the country or 50% of the world. Literally, all of us need to do this to hopefully slow down COVID-19 because at this point, Omicron is kicking our you-know-what, and it's going through teams and leagues like crazy, and it's very unfortunate. So I think the NBA, again, I know let's be honest, leagues are about this. They're about making money. I get I get it, bottom line, but at the same time, we have to keep these players safe because you don't want to get to a point where you're forced to cancel games, and we know they don't want to do that. But if COVID keeps going around like it is, I mean, unless you're going to keep signing people off the street, I don't know what you're going to do when it gets to a certain point.
It's definitely getting worse as far as seeing all these teams having to just like sign players out of nowhere. They'll turn in the injury report in the morning and Kevin Durant's on there, and then by 6 o'clock he's not playing. He's entering health and safety protocols. You know what I mean? It's like
it's unfortunate for the football season too, because it's like you're nearing the playoffs,
and that's the thing. Like with football, it's going crazy.
Exactly. Like before it came on, like I guess like right before the onset of COVID actually happened, they were able to like finish that season, right?
Yeah.
When we were in the throes of it, you already knew what the situation was. It was kind of like this season was like, yo, we're coming up out of the
we were coming up out of it,
so we're getting back to this normalcy. And now
midway through the season, you're looking nose diving back into it,
and this also being the first season where an extra game is also added to the season.
Right,
like,
we have the 17,
wow, there's so many like wild card situations that could come about, and it's like you can't necessarily control your situation, and like these games are really pivotal. So it sucks that a lot of I guess fan bases and teams and coaches, players are all put in this position where it's like, man, like ain't every like from week to week we really have to play it from week to week. You have it's like COVID is literally like this injury and any given moment you have to put a person on the IR. And then that's
any given moment you got to go on the IR. Yeah,
2 games you can't play. Like look at the Browns. The Browns have literally suffered.
Man, look at us. Look at the Washington football team. I wanted to ask you about this, Kelsey. Like last night was a important game for our playoff chances,
to say the least. Now you look at
my gosh,
like in the hunt in single digits for the playoff race. That game was so pivotal, so important. I want to take us back to Tuesday morning, y'all. We were still looking at the COVID-19 list to see if our 2 quarterbacks that have played this season would be able to play. And lo and behold, hours before the game, we're told they're not able to. Then some players get off the COVID list, rushing to Dulles Airport to get down to Philly to make the game.
Really? I did not even know all that. That's crazy.
That's how dire it was. It was crazy. And then we have a guy, Garrett Gilbert, who 6 days ago was bathing his daughter in a bathtub, sitting on New England.
Straight up.
And his wife is like, hey, babe, you might want to take this call. They keep calling you. He
straight up.
And again, it's taking guys off the street. And that's what's happening in the National Football League. I mean, you guys talked about Cleveland. I remember Dearness Johnson and that first game he had as a running back and how great it was to see. But remember, it's because it was a depleted back group for the Cleveland Browns.
Nick Chubb, I think, was out.
All their top
Kareem
runners.
Hunt. Yeah.
And he shined that game, but it's a lot. I mean, and you look at the playoff chances in Washington again, just lost to Dallas. Now you lost to the Eagles. And now each of these games are going to matter, but also you don't want other people to try to have to control your destiny. In that game, I mean, of course, but let's be honest, football is a next man up type of league. Like it just is. Like people are out. Montez Sweat came back and he had a great play. Even though I don't know if we're going to talk about the defense, but anytime you give up over 500 yards, it's despicable. It's
not good.
It was bad, even though I know how good Philly's running game could be. But all that to say, COVID-19 is changing the game. Look at Kansas City right now. They're having a bad COVID outbreak. And Kansas City is looking good at the right time.
And just when they were starting to click. Just when you think they might could go back and do it all, it's a big thing. And even I look at somebody like Tampa Bay, and hopefully they don't get the COVID-19 bug back because they're already having injuries bad. We just saw Tom Brady shut out, and the Saints having
Evans hamstring.
So everything is changing. And this is what COVID-19 is doing. And it's unfortunate because even with games postponed, does it really give your team a chance to get healthy when the COVID-19 could pop up at any time? I mean, the Rams are a team that luckily were able to get healthy. And I think the Rams are a team that we do have to start talking about seriously. But yeah, Cleveland has had it bad. The Baltimore Ravens also had it bad on both the injury side of it and the COVID-19 side of it. And I
all year long.
Right. It severely hurt them because Baltimore, I mean, they're like down all their DBs. Like it's getting pretty bad. And the Ravens were a team at the beginning.
And then they lost, I think, their top 2 running backs in the beginning of the season for the season.
Yeah. Remember, they had to sign Murray. They had Le'Veon Bell, and Le'Veon Bell had to go to the Buccaneers.
Shout out Harbaugh, man.
I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. So, yeah, I think COVID-19, especially in the NFL, you have to ask big questions because now you can't be so confident about, your team because, I mean, lo and behold, especially if your quarterback goes down, and we know how dependent so many of these teams are on their quarterbacks. Not every team has a backup like Tyler Huntley, like the Baltimore Ravens.
I know, right?
One thing
they had to do their backup quarter situation with Glennon. Like, it just wasn't the same. Not that the Giants are good. He didn't give them a
Right.
better chance at winning.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know, one thing that this all makes me even think about, like in real times, like, man, I guess in these COVID-ridden type seasons, kind of look more so towards like the coach. Like, I'm like, yo, how are you going to go ahead and garner these players together? Because it's like at like you said, like at any given moment is a next man up type of thing. And it's like at the end of the day, like when I look at like a Bill Belichick, right, and like how the Patriots, it's like it's so crazy how their whole defense had set out last year due to like the protocol. So they're like, yo, and everybody kind of like, you know, put the Patriots to the wayside, but now had they returned, and I guess I'm just talking about that to speak to like, yo, you really have to be malleable, like in terms of like from
Ready
top
for
to bottom
change.
and ready to go. Like sometimes like you may have to play a whole nother position because the person that we're actually going to bring in can play that
Your position.
Your position.
You can play this one better.
Yeah, exactly. At least we can have you over here. So it's like, I feel like everybody has to be like the teams that will, I guess, fare the best in this type of season, and any sport for that matter, is the ones that can be like flexible within their roster and can do like a multi-dimensional and can do several different type of things.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that because I was going to say, I'm so glad you said that because you're right. But I think it has to be up on the players to be able to do that and want to do that. Because I think back to the Baltimore Ravens last year, and you look at somebody like Orlando Brown Jr. I don't know if you guys remember the situation, but remember he wanted to play a specific tackle position. And Baltimore had to use him in multiple positions, right? Because they had depleted at injuries. And so lo and behold, he wanted out of Baltimore and he landed in a good landing spot with the Kansas City Chiefs. But I think you bring up such an important point. Players are going to have to play different positions. In the Washington football team, look at how Landon Collins has been used, right? He's been used as a DB, obviously, but also as a linebacker as well, depending on the team's needs and I think where you can fit in. So I think you have to get in where you fit in. But like you said, this is when it's so nice to have a Swiss Army knife and players that can do multiple things and play multiple positions, because that's what it is right now. You're going to have to do everything you can to win. And also going back to the coaching point, you're right. This is when you really see, I think, the top coaches. And I'll tell you guys, this is why I had a rant about John Harbaugh and the decision that he made to go for the win. Now, I understand you want to go for the win. You want
let's hear it. Let's hear it.
When you have a team that's hurt and depleted, all right, you're playing with backups. The defense hadn't done good all game really until the end, and then we're finally able to hold off and stop Aaron Rodgers. And you have the best kicker in the National Football League and Justin Tucker. To me, to give your chance the best team to win with a backup quarterback that is still getting used to it and his feet under the rocks and is playing pretty well, I would say kick it. And I would say kick it and go to overtime, because at least in overtime, I think you give yourself a better chance to win since you had the momentum going into that. Now Baltimore has lost 2 important games. You remember that one against the Steelers, a divisional game.
Yeah, when they went for 2.
North races, and you had the chance to beat the Green Bay Packers at home. At home. To me, John Harbaugh, as much as I am a fan of John Harbaugh and the done that he's done in Baltimore, and let's not forget a Super Bowl winning coach. So, I mean, you can't take away any of these accolades. To me, those were 2 bad decisions. Again, kick the ball, because Baltimore has not been the same Baltimore as of late, and at least let your team go to overtime. Baltimore's gotten better at come from behind wins, and your team does all that work now to come back only to see it fall. And then also I thought, I'm sorry, but Greg Roman in that play calling, Mark Andrews was the main target all game. So throwing that ball to Mark Andrews, of all people, it just wasn't a good
you got to go with what works. Let me play devil's advocate a little bit.
You can't do everything. Like it's just I hated that call. I'm sorry, especially again when your team. It's crazy.
Yeah. So if I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit, like I feel like because of some of the reasons that you stated is why you try to win it right there. Like you said, they hadn't been stopping Green Bay all game, so maybe they do have momentum. But also, if it's me and I'm against Aaron Rodgers, I don't want to give Aaron Rodgers the ball in overtime if I'm assuming he gets the ball first. Like, I don't want to do that.
But,
you know what I mean?
But do you think that you have do you think you have a better chance with putting, I guess, a player in a situation where they have not really necessarily been, which is the 2-point, which you're going to win, or will you be like, let me just go with maybe something that I think is more of a short thing, let Tuck go ahead and we could take it in, because it's like,
I don't think that's a sure thing. I think going to overtime doesn't equal a win. It equals more time to try to win. You know what I mean?
So right, it's that chance, and to me,
it equals more time to try to win. But then also the chance is right there when you're on the 3-yard line trying to get it in for 2. Like that's also your chance to try to win.
Quarterback. Let's remember that Tyler Huntley.
Backup quarterback that ran for 2 touchdowns and threw for 2 touchdowns. He was a backup quarterback that was killing.
Game, but also I think people are quickly, and I'm a Tyler Huntley fan, but also he's still getting used to it. The Baltimore offense. Let's remember, Baltimore's offense was built for Lamar Jackson. Yes, Tyler Huntley is like a. He's got
kind of. I'm not going to say he's Lamar. He's not Lamar, but he's got a good skill set to match it.
But still, again, I think when you have a team and you look at all of those players, those new players that Baltimore had to bring in and get used to things, you saw players go down in that game. Not having a true signal caller on the end and a defensive leader, I think, on the sidelines. I think Baltimore would have did much better, especially when this was a must-win game. Look how close the AFC race is for the
Kelsea.
playoffs.
These are all reasons why I'm like going for 2 makes sense. These are all like all the reasons that you're saying. I'm like, oh, yeah, this is why you try to win it right here. Don't give more time.
They haven't been as good this year going for 2. If you look at it, they've been more than often. They haven't got it. I would agree with you if it had been going well.
Another thing I'll point to, one more thing that I'll point to is that I remember earlier this year, they were playing the Raiders. It might have been one of the first couple games of the season for them. They were playing the Raiders, and they did take it to overtime, and they lost in overtime to the Raiders. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
but remember how they lost it, and I love Lamar Jackson.
It was. I remember crazy. It was crazy. It was a crazy throw to Derek Carr when they came out with the field goal team, but then they were like, nah, let's just try to win it. And then Derek Carr threw, but a busted coverage. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if Derek Carr can do that to you in overtime, what do you think Aaron Rodgers is going to do to you? Like, to me, it's like giving Aaron Rodgers another chance. I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? There's no scenario where it's like,
because again, when you go to the 2-point conversion, again, when your team hasn't, when you go to the 2-point conversion, again, you have a quarterback that's decent, but still getting used to playing and starting in the league. And you have a Greg Roman in an offense that's been in question all season. We all know Baltimore has had a hard time handling the blitz for the last couple of weeks. I think you do the safe decision. I'm sorry. I have to hold true to that. They brought the pressure.
I hear that.
Huntley was flushed out, and he had to make that quick throw pass. And again, he threw it, of all people, to Mark Andrews, who was a beast that entire game. But if I'm a defense, I'm doubling Mark Andrews because I know he's your best chance at winning this football game.
And as a young quarterback, you're going to go to your safety blanket on the biggest play of the game.
And
you're going to go to like, I know Mark. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why I just think it was the wrong, especially again when playoff contention, and you know how close the AFC. Look at the AFC North. Look at what Cincinnati is doing. All right. You look at the Pittsburgh Steelers still in it. The Cleveland Browns still in it.
Pittsburgh is starting to come alive. They were dead in the water a couple weeks ago. Now they're like coming alive. You about to say something?
Yeah, I feel like sometimes the same thing that people rave about Harbaugh can sometimes be his downfall too. In terms of being a player's coach, I feel like he always wants to go ahead and put it in their hands. And sometimes, like, Harbaugh, like, I feel like the players really love you because you do trust.
You got to be the parent here.
You got to read the writing on the wall and be like, damn, like, y'all aren't converting these players. Like, let's just chill. Like, let's just.
That was my point. That was my exact
point. We always try to do this. Like,
you gotta be the parents. Like, we can't have McDonald's every night, guys.
Right, no. It's kind of like Cam Newton. I mean, we all know Cam Newton. You know, when he can play like Superman. But as of late, we've seen Cam Newton mention things because it's a "What have you done for me lately?" And I need to see your type of play lately. All of a sudden, you're not going to disbelieve. You know, Cam Newton's going to all of a sudden turn back into old Cam Newton and just lead the Carolina Panthers to immense victory. And I think that's what it is. And so I think John Harbaugh, I get being a player's coach and I get believing your team, but also you have to know the identity of your team. And Baltimore has been up and down this season, inconsistent this season. So I think you play safe football with your team and try to get the win in overtime. If they lost in overtime, I don't think they would have lost any respect, again, because how well they played and the comeback that they did to turn that game around. But when you leave it to a 2-point conversion now, we just keep asking, what if? What if?
Who's your favorite for the Super Bowl? Who can you see kind of, making that run and ending up in the Super Bowl on both sides, AFC and NFC?
Yeah, so, I had Green Bay at the beginning of the season. I did have Green Bay winning. I didn't foresee Aaron Rodgers teaching us the difference between immunized and vaccinated.
It's been a crazy year for Aaron Rodgers, dog. It's been a crazy year.
Topic of conversation for like the last
for sure.
So there's a lot of things that happen. But, they look good on both sides of the football. So as long as they can keep Aaron Rodgers healthy, because I'm not trusting in Jordan Love, as long as they can keep him healthy, I think they have a very good chance. You look at somebody, I know people were talking about Tampa Bay, but those recent injuries worry me a lot about Tampa Bay. And I also like the Rams, I think, are a team that you do kind of also, if I'm being honest, have to keep an eye on because they're starting to look good at the right time. But still, it's hard to choose against Green Bay and Kansas City. I mean, I have to see what happens with this COVID outbreak. And as much as I kind of hate to see it, Kansas City is hitting at the right time. And
they're coming alive.
So it's hard to count out against them. But I'll tell you all, I think we've been spoiled this year because we've had so much good football, and this race is so tight.
Yes.
Personally, I love it like this. I don't like any team kind of being a runaway home favorite. I mean, I think all of us were surprised. I couldn't believe what I was seeing on my Twitter timeline to the Arizona Cardinals getting spanked by the Detroit Lions.
Oh my gosh.
This is why.
And then you had the Jaguars beat the Bills a couple weeks ago. It's like some of these teams who were favorites. Some of these teams who, like, you know, the Bills. I'm not going to call them on a free fall right now, but like they were a Super Bowl favorite at the beginning of the year. I don't think people.
Look at how they've spiraled, and even the Cardinals. Now we have questions about them.
And the Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals are sitting at what 10-2, and people are like, I don't know, you know, or maybe 10-3. But it's like they still have probably one of the best records in the league. But now at the end of the year,
Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins.
And that's the thing, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, and I think that's important in these times of COVID. That's super important that like you can have a guy like Colt McCoy. That's their backup, right? I think it's Colt McCoy. You can have a guy like him who can come in and still win you games versus, you know, somebody like the Washington football team who we just got to pick up a guy off the street. I mean, I'm just saying, and also it's also nothing against homie that started last night. I think he played well. I mean, under the circumstances, he did the best he could. Like, I was actually surprised to see that it was like 17-20 at one point. You know what I mean?
Remember how they started? Now, lo and behold, I know the defensive turnovers helped the Washington offense to get that early 10-0 lead. But I think considering how much time he had to learn the playbook and the pressure that was coming at him, I think he did fairly well. As Gary,
me too.
We're going to get the team immense wins? No. But Taylor Heineke, I mean, let's remember how we met Taylor Heineke last year.
I mean, he was a backup. Right. Straight up. Taking it to the NBA side, who are your favorites? You don't necessarily have to pick your finals favorites, but who are you liking given all of the things that are happening? So we're talking complete teams. What I was gonna say. Talking complete teams. Who do you like? Who's still, because like somebody like Milwaukee, there was a stretch when Chris Middleton and Giannis weren't playing and they were still like 10-0. You know what I mean? So like
consider, you're right. They're a team that you have to like. But I think that honestly, the bigger question to me this year is the teams that have kind of been disappointing. And I know we can all probably go into a rant, but let's be honest, the Los Angeles Lakers and what they've been through, I think has been surprised. I see you shaking your head.
Brooke has not stopped talking about that for like a week.
So I think many people are like, I just don't know. There's so many questions surrounding them. I think we need to get AD in bubble wrap and somehow just keep him protected.
Straight up.
And then even the Nets, you're looking at the situation that they're going through. And yes, they're still a good team, but this is why, honestly, it's even harder, I think, because of COVID to pick like who you really think. But I'm glad that we talked about Chicago earlier because I'm just loving, you know, I mean, who saw this?
I'm loving Chicago.
Even our Wizards had started hot, and I'm not going to lie to you all.
They're kind of. I'm not liking how the last month has looked, really, but hopefully they'll get it turned around.
Has changed because of the Washington Wizards. Like they gave us hope in DC. Like we were playing good basketball.
For sure.
Lo and behold. So I mean, it's hard to go against. Obviously, like if the Nets can stay healthy, I mean, I think it's hard to pick out against them. But I think honestly, the biggest disappointment for me has been the Los Angeles Lakers because I just thought they'd be so much better than they're playing right now, and they're still trying to get in the groove of things. Nobody foresaw this coming. And the NBA has also been good to us because it's been an up and down road for these teams.
Yeah, for sure. So before we wrap up, please let us know where we can keep up with you, where we can catch your shows, and when. Just let us know all of that.
Well, thank you all so much for having us. This is so much fun. These are the type of shows.
This was very fun. Yeah. This was a blast.
All day. Appreciate you guys having me. Everyone can follow me on social media, The Real K Nelson. Check out all of my sports content and shows. Also, my personal website, KelseyNicoleNelson.com. I'm on Facebook, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. Also just launched my brand new podcast website, Listen In with KNN. So check that out. And then all of my shows can be on the Fox Sports Radio, 1340 AM, 96.9 FM website. So also check that out to not miss anything. I have Marvin Jones joining me soon. Jets Nation should remember all he did for the Golden Knights. So super excited to be welcoming him on. And also his son, by the way, just committed to FSU. So also going to talk about that.
Okay.
For college sports. So super excited about that.
Very dope. Very dope. Well, Kelsey, thank you again for coming on.
I
And
appreciate y'all.
enjoy
It's
this.
fun.
Yeah. Enjoy tonight of sports. Enjoy this rest of the week of sports, this rest of season sports. Happy holidays as well.
Thank you so much. Happy holidays.
We got a great Christmas slate of basketball games. You know what I'm saying? So
it's
I'm looking forward to
good.
that.
I'm excited. So
Yeah.
hopefully my mom doesn't keep me in the kitchen too long because I'm gonna be out somehow.
Yeah. You need to get you a little TV or a little iPad. You know what I'm saying? Set that joint up right there. Yeah, for sure.
So, no, this was great. And also shout out to Deion Sanders as well for what he's doing for HBCUs.
Oh, I love Deion.
I think
I love Deion.
And we're bringing the talent to where it needs to be. People forget how many great teams from HBCUs. So I also wanted to shout that out.
Yes, that's important to say for sure.
Hell yeah.
For sure. Well, yes, Kelsey, thank you and have a good rest of the day.
Have a great one.
Back to the interview.
You ready?
Yeah, that was very fire. Yeah, man. So that's our show for today. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Definitely subscribe, like, share the video. Brooke, what you got? Oh, it's Christmas this weekend, so everybody having a great Christmas. You know what I'm saying? Happy holidays, everybody. Brooke, Merry Christmas, bro.
Likewise, bro.
Yeah. We'll see all of y'all next week, man. Appreciate y'all tuning in. See y'all next week real early.
Peace.
Early.